Good to see everyone. Good afternoon. We'll get started. I want to ask all of us to please turn our cell phones to silent and to make sure they are off the table so we can avoid unnecessary feedback. You may notice board members accessing their laptops during the meeting. They are using their laptops solely to access board meeting materials that are in an electronic format. This is an official business meeting of the Medical Board of California. As such, disruptions of the board's business will not be tolerated. We have designated time on the agenda for public comment and ask for public comment on each agenda item. I ask that you be respectful of the need to conduct the board's business. Should anyone disrupt the meeting, I will ask the person to conduct himself or herself in such a manner that permits the board to transact its business. This meeting will be available via teleconference. Individuals listening to the meeting will have an opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by a moderator who will be facilitating the teleconferencing process. For those members of the public participating via teleconference, please wait until the moderator has introduced you before you make comments. To request to make a comment during the public comment period, press *1. You will hear a tone indicating you are in the queue for comment. If you change your mind and do not wish to make a comment, press the #sign. Assistance is available throughout the teleconference meeting. To request a specialist, press *0. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes per agenda item. However, during item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda, the board has limited the public comment period for individuals to the teleconference to a total of 20 minutes. We hope to stay within the 20 minutes. In addition, public comment from individuals here at the meeting will also be limited to 20 minutes. Therefore, after 20 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. During public comment on any other agenda item, 10 minutes will be allowed for comments from individuals on the teleconference line and those in the audience. After 10 minutes, no further comments will be accepted. Armando Melendez, hello, good afternoon, will be assisting me with receiving public comments via teleconference during this meeting. The board welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comment prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item and you wish to speak to that item, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. I would like to remind all the speakers to complete a presenter slip so I can call you by name at the appropriate time and that the record of this meeting can be full and complete. Please give the speaker slips to Ms. Toof. Ms. Toof, can you identify yourself? Hello, good afternoon. I will do my best to call upon everyone who has supplied a slip for the agenda item and recognize those who wish to make a last-minute comment. But we ask you to fill out a speaker slip after your comments so that we have it for the record. I want to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and to keep your comments 3 minutes or less. We intend to end our meeting today at 5:30. I know we got a bit of a late start. We may take some items out of order to accommodate the schedule. And before we call the roll, I would like to introduce some members of the public and fellow state agencies that are with us at this meeting. Ms. Lisa Lopez, the General Counsel for Business Consumer Affairs. Thank you for joining us. Leslie Lopez, I apologize. Christine Lally, thank you. And Terrence Smith, hello. Thank you for being with us. And our friend G.V. Ayers is here as well. Good to see you again. And Sarah Huckle, staff for Business and Professions Committee. Sarah? Hello. Hi. Thank you all for being with us this afternoon. I would like to call the meeting to order and to ask Ms. Toof to please call the roll.
Dr. Ganadev?
Here.
Ms. Pines? Here. Dr. Bishop?
Here.
Dr. Kraus?
Present.
Dr. Levine? Here. Dr. Lewis?
Present.
Mr. Louie? Ms. Shipsky? Ms. Wright?
Here.
Ms. Yaroslavsky?
Present.
Dr. Yip?
Here.
And Mr. Serrano Sewell.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. A quorum is present. Before we begin, we're going to be, I would like to let the members know that we'll be taking a roll call vote on each action item. This is to conform with a new state law, and it shouldn't add much time to it, but that's what we'll be doing for each and every vote. In addition, I would like to inform everyone that item 25, the Special Faculty Permit Review Committee recommendations, will be moved to today, and it will be taken after agenda item 12. So we're moving an agenda item from tomorrow to today, and it will be heard after agenda item 12. Moving to agenda item 2, public comments on items not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips. Are there any comments on the phone?
Okay, we have nothing from the phone.
All right, nothing from the phone. Thank you. We'll move to our next agenda item. Agenda item 3, approval of the minutes from the October 23rd, 24th, 2014 board meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, are there any comments on the phone? The approval of the minutes?
Nothing from the phone.
Who's going to call it? Ms. Kirkmeyer, please call the roll.
Mr. Serrano Sewell.
Aye.
Dr. Ganadev.
Aye.
Ms. Pines.
Aye.
Dr. Bishop.
Aye.
Dr. Kraus.
Yes.
Dr. Levine. Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Wright.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky. And Dr. Yip.
Abstain, thank you. One abstention. The motion carries. We will now move to agenda item 4. Board. Oh, I apologize. We're going to do the December minutes as well. If you had an opportunity to review the December 2014 minutes,
Yes, I move to approve December
that was that call, right?
1st minutes.
Second.
Right. Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any comments from members of the board? Seeing none, are there any comments from members of the public? Phone? This is for the approval of the December 2014 minutes. Ms. Kirkmeyer, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Serrano Sewell.
Aye.
Dr. Ganadev.
Aye.
Ms. Pines.
Aye.
Dr. Bishop.
Aye.
Dr. Kraus.
Yes.
Dr. Levine.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Ms. Wright.
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky. And Dr. Yip.
Wonderful. The motion carries. On to agenda item 4, board member communications with interested parties. Do the members have anything to report? Yes, doctor.
Other than my usual, I do work with CMA and AMA quite on advocacy issues, but stay off the board issues. But I was a member of the work group for 1115 waiver for workforce development. So I had 3 meetings with multiple entities who are all members of the waiver. This is for the Medi-Cal waiver for the next 5 years, starting October of 2015 to October of 2020. So it's all about workforce development. It was very, very interesting and useful workforce meeting. So we made several recommendations to Department of Healthcare Services.
Thank you, doctor. Ms. Yaroslavsky, and then, oh, Dr. Kraus.
Within the last week, I had a brief discussion with Janice Norman, who's a lobbyist for the California Medical Association, regarding SB 128, which is the Death with Dignity bill.
Okay. Any other? I'm looking to my left, members. Any further comments to my right? Okay, seeing none. Moving to agenda item 5, the President's report. The Vice President and I continue to meet with the board's executive staff to discuss projects at the board and to ensure everything is moving forward as needed at board meetings. I would like to draw the members' attention to BRD 5A-1 and 5A-2. This document is the board's policy compendium that was approved at the board's October meeting. As requested by the members, I would like to offer an opportunity for the members to review the compendium and offer changes or suggest a new item that can be placed in the compendium and for board discussion. Do any members have any edits or any new policies they would like reviewed for possible inclusion in this document? Dr. Kraus?
I would like to lead to establishing policies regarding telehealth and its use for recommending marijuana or prescribing DEA scheduled drugs.
Okay. Take that under advisement. Any other comments or suggestions? All right, thank you. Are there any public comments from those in the audience? Are there any comments on the phone? This is agenda item, well, my report.
Nothing from the phone.
All right, thank you. We'll be moving on to agenda item 6, the executive management reports. Ms. Crookmeyer.
Good afternoon. I would like to begin by asking for a motion to approve the orders following completion of probation and orders for license surrender during probation.
So moved.
Second.
There's been, do we need to, okay, we're going to do a roll call. All right, we're getting used to it. There's been a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Serrano Sewell,
Yes?
Dr. Gonadev,
Yes.
Ms. Pines, Dr. Bishop,
Yes.
Dr. Kraus,
Yes.
Dr. Levine, Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Ms. Yaroslavsky,
Yes.
and Dr. Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. At the last meeting, or actually at the prior meetings, we had approved our schedule for our meeting dates for 2015. However, there was a request that the April 30th and May 1st board meeting be moved to May 7th and 8th. And I had requested members to look at their calendars on this agenda item, and therefore I would like to ask that members discuss this request, and if desired, make a motion to move the meeting to May 7th and 8th. We have looked at it, and there is no negative impact to the disciplinary timeframes with this change.
Members, this request came from me. If it fits everyone's schedule, I
So
would
moved.
appreciate it. If
So
not, then we
moved.
can. All right, thank you. Motion and a second.
You have a second from
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments from the public on the motion? This is to move our meeting. Any comments from the phone?
No, sir.
All right, seeing none?
Mr. Serrano Sewell,
Aye.
Dr. Gonadev,
Aye.
Ms. Pines,
Aye.
Dr. Bishop,
Aye.
Dr. Kraus.
Abstain.
Okay. Dr. Levine, Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky,
Aye.
and Dr. Yep.
Motion carries.
So it's going to go to the 7th and 8th.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I would have forgot. The location right now is the Los Angeles area, and when we had tried to call for the meeting dates of the end of April and the 1st of May, we were having trouble finding a location near LAX that could fit us. And Ms. Rayo has done a tremendous job of calling area hotels because of the size of room that we need and everything. We had had some trouble. I don't know if moving it to May 7th and 8th will change that, but I would like some leeway from the members to go the Los Angeles area, but it may be that we need to move it to around Orange County Airport or around maybe Burbank or something like that, just with leeway with the members, if that's all right. It's still Los Angeles area, I think, Southern Cal.
Palm Springs Airport.
Palm Springs, no, we're not doing Palm Springs.
We have one member, we have a member that lives in Palm Springs, so I think that's fine. There's an airport there.
Yes.
Hawaii, no.
Right.
And
Yes,
I don't think
absolutely,
that
you
we
have
need a
leeway.
motion
You
on
have
that
leeway.
because it's still Los Angeles, but I did want to give the members a heads up on that.
You
You
have,
should just remember Orange County is not Los Angeles County, but that's okay.
This is true.
you have our full support.
Okay, all right. I will not be going over all of the administrative summary or the enforcement program summary or licensing unless someone has a question. However, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our new deputy director, if Liz Amaral would stand. Ms. Amaral came to us on December 5th, and in a very short time, she has made a significant impact on the board, and I think we're driving people crazy right now because the number of reports we're asking for and trying to put everything together for our budget and personnel, and she's just done a yeoman's job in the short time that she's been with us. I also wanted to let the members know that we just received information yesterday that the board's chief of enforcement position will be going to the State Personnel Board on February 5th. As is stated in the minutes, it had gone on January 8th, and they held it over until February 5th. So we're hoping that that will get approved tomorrow. If it's approved, we hope to have someone in that position by May of this year. I also would like to just take a moment publicly to thank Ms. Simoes for assisting me while the deputy director was vacant. She has really filled into that position and just really helped me in so many times and on so many projects, in addition to keeping up with the legislation. And then finally, I'd also like to thank Ms. Romero and Mr. Warden for their assistance on additional workload due to the vacant chief of enforcement position. We couldn't do what we do without these individuals. Then I also want to take there's executive staff. Over the last several months, we've had a lot of issues that have come up to the board, and between Mr. Kadani, Ms. Ryan, and Ms. Lawley, their help has been instrumental in some of the decisions that we've done and being able to move some items forward. So I wanted to thank them. And along those lines, what I wanted to bring up is that right now with the report team complaining about the reports and about Breeze, and I'm probably not going to change some of my complaints about the system, but I do want to say that in working with the DCA executive team right now on the reports for meeting with them yesterday, and they are really trying to make sure that these reports that come out of this system fit the boards to where everybody is talking apples to apples, including looking with the Attorney General's office. And Mr. Kadani, and as busy as he is, he took the time yesterday to go over those with us and for our board specific, but all of the boards under the Department of Consumer Affairs. So they're taking a very good look at these reports and making sure that everybody knows the basically the data that they're putting in to make sure everybody is talking the same language and using the same data markers. So I just want to thank the department for looking at that. And then lastly, I did want to talk about the CARES program, that we are very involved in this project, as all of you know, and I did put an update in there, but I want to let you all know that so far they are on schedule still for the rollout, and for individuals to be able to register on January 2016. Ms. Carrasco and Ms. Calderon, who I don't think is here, has been very involved in the CARES meetings. This has taken a tremendous amount of time. I'm surprised by how much time, we were surprised by how much time it's actually taken. I have weekly meetings on this because we're part of the Joint Executive Steering Committee, and also updates on this project, as well as a monthly executive committee meeting. So it's taking a lot of time, but we are involved. We're also providing the design as where they are right now. We've gone through all the JAD sessions. We've gone through all of the putting the requirements together, and so now we're in the design phase. And at the meeting earlier this week, they actually saw the front screen of the CARES, future CARES system, and so we're working a lot on that. And lastly, I want to provide an update on the coordination with other state agencies regarding the issue of prescribing psychotropic medications to foster children. As reported at the last meeting, Senator Liu sent a letter to the board asking it to look into the inappropriate prescribing of psychotropic drugs to foster care children. And since that last meeting, the board has met with the Department of Healthcare Services and the Department of Social Services on this issue. After the meeting, we put together a list of information we requested be provided to the board in order to determine if any treatment was inappropriate. In order to receive this information, the agencies are requiring us to put together a scope of work for a data usage agreement and a memorandum of understanding between the board and the Department of Healthcare Services and the Department of Social Services. At this time, Ms. Webb is working with legal counsel at the Department of Healthcare Services to complete the agreements. Once that document is completed, the information will be provided to the board. Ms. Romero, Ms. Somoza, or I continue to attend meetings on the quality improvement project that they put together at those two agencies, and also a data and tech work group. This concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Dr. Levine?
Just one question, and going back to the cures item, given that there's now state law requiring registration by January 1, 2016, are those who are managing the existing cure system confident that it can handle those registrations between now and December 31st, 2016?
So the new system is slated to roll out July 1st of this year. So the new system will be able to handle all of those individuals. In the meantime, we've been doing outreach, and so far there hasn't been, we haven't heard that the system can't handle any more individuals. But the intent is to give 6 months with the new system to get them registered.
Is there do they have or you have a sense of what percentage of current DEA holders are not yet registered for cures? I know that the last time we heard from Mr. Small, I think he said something like 14% of California licensees, physicians, were registered on the system.
I don't know what the newest percentage is. I can check on that and bring it back. But you know, and for some reason 27 is sticking in my head, but I have no idea where that number's coming from. But I know it's higher than what it was before, because I know we've sent quite a few over, and Mr. Shunke has been doing outreach, and during his licensing outreach, he's also signing up individuals for cures.
Along those same lines, let me ask two questions. One is, we know that the rollout for any kind of new system takes a whole long time, and there are issues to be worked out and kinks to be worked out. So to that end, two things. One is, do you think that maybe some kind of stakeholders of, like, say, large groups of providers should be part of like a first eyes look at this, maybe as you go before the rollout, to make sure that what is rolled out is going to meet, that they're going to understand what's going on, some kind of education? That's number one. And number two, it went out of my head.
So let me answer your first question,
Yes.
and then that'll give you time to think of the second one. But I know that Yvonne Chung is here from the California Medical Association, and they are actually involved in it. They have asked us to identify users to come in and look at the system and be part of the actual rollout and design of the system.
That's good.
And then as far as education, the Caltech, who's the oversight entity for IT projects, they have now required that the education piece be actually put in as a data marker that's hit to make sure that the prescribers, dispensers, and even the regulatory agencies have education and training on the system.
So this isn't what I was thinking, but now that you said that, the idea that some kind of an alert could go out via email from the medical board to licensees, warning them that the deadline is coming to sign up, and the method on which they should use to sign up might be some proactive activity.
We definitely will do that as soon as the system's up, because I have my concerns with the same as Dr. Levine, to not put too many people in the system before it's ready to go.
Dr. Lewis?
Okay, and to tag on to that, the over 2,000 government employed physicians have not even been part of this at all. There's no system in place to contact them, and they don't get the emails. So just, we can talk about that. And I have a question about your MOU. What's on the working with the state agencies regarding the psychotropic medications for foster children? What do you hope is the end result? What is I'm having a hard time understanding what the MOU is supposed to accomplish.
So what we've tried, we've actually set, and I didn't bring it, and I don't know if Ms. Webb can tell you but what we've set is we have set some criteria. So children who have received 4 or more psychotropic medications within a certain time frame, we've asked for that data to come back to it so we can analyze that information, but they won't do it without this MOU.
Right, I think it's 3 or more psychotropic medications within a 4-month period, and some other data factors that will then allow us to open a complaint and have an evaluation to determine whether further investigation is warranted.
Is this based on some kind of medical expert decision of what the amount of medications are within the time limit, or that
Yeah, we basically took it from some information that we had gathered from all of the meetings that we've had with these 2 entities, that was kind of the top, I think, is what we had found out.
Dr. Levine?
But the purpose of the MOU is to address a concern by the department that in order to release data to the medical board, they are required to have an MOU in place to enable them to exchange data. So the purpose of the MOU isn't to facilitate the investigation. It's to enable the inter-entity transfer of the data in a fashion that protects both
Thank you.
the resender and receiver of the data.
Right, and then we would have to run it through a medical consultant, obviously, to know is really issue, or is it, it's appropriate prescribing.
Along with that, looking in the future, is there any thought about setting up stakeholder meetings, because that is a very hot topic and an important one, with media, state agencies, medical board, so that everybody understands what we do and what other agencies do to prevent what happened in San Jose, that this reaction in the newspaper. I mean, is there any thought about that?
I think that's really coming from more of the Department of Healthcare Services and the Department of Social Services. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of being brought into it because we, regulate the physicians. But it's obviously a much bigger issue than just the medical board.
Right, okay.
But
Thank you.
we need to do our part.
Right, thanks.
Are there any additional questions on the executive director's report? I do have one public comment on item 6B. Anna? Oh, Yvonne? Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I'm getting everyone's names mixed up. I apologize.
That's because you identified yourself from the California Medical Board.
Right, totally threw us all off.
Confused everyone. Good afternoon, Yvonne Chung with the California Medical Association. A couple items that we wanted to bring to your attention on the budget and the finance issues. One issue that was not included in the documents, but we'd like to highlight is that we were pleased to see that in the governor's budget, there's a plan to repay $10 million back to the contingent fund for the medical board. And we wanted to let the board know that CMA is obviously supportive of this, and we intend to include it as part of our budget advocacy, and look forward to working with you as well to make sure that that money does get returned to the contingent fund. On the issue of cures, we have been meeting with DOJ and have been trying to help them put together a list of physicians, not just number, but physicians practicing in different types of environments, large group physicians, solo physicians, physicians who are involved in direct dispensing, and trying to kind of create, all the possible scenarios that of physicians who might be affected by this. And on the issue of publicizing to physicians the need to register for cures, I don't think you can do it too early. As we've seen from your issues with getting physicians to renew their licenses in a timely fashion, getting physicians to attest to meaningful use, whatever timeline you think you're going to need to, I would add some time onto that, even if it's just notices in the newsletter, working with other trade associations as well to let them know and start communicating to their members, because what we have found is that it has to be almost, we have a year, but it's going to go by fast, and we're happy to help publicize it in whatever way we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from the public on the Executive Director's report? There's no action items. I do want to add one thing I didn't touch on, and Kimberly, you and I could talk about that, and that is our Legislative Action Day. Oh. Great, that's fine. Yes, are there any comments on the phone?
Nothing from the phone.
We will, tomorrow we'll elaborate more on our Legislative Action Day, which is coming up, which we're very excited about. But for now, we're going to be moving on to Agenda Item 7, update and consideration of recommendations from the Education and Wellness Committee meeting. Ms. Yaroslavsky?
Thank you. The Education and Wellness Committee met earlier this afternoon, Thursday, January 29th, here in Sacramento. Dr. Kraus, Ms. Pines, and myself were present. The minutes from the Education and Wellness Committee meeting held on July 24th, 2014 in Sacramento was unanimously approved. A presentation regarding the prohibition of corporate practice of medicine was given by Ms. Carrie Webb, Ms. Diane Dobbs, Mr. Ian McClone, and my apologies again for mispronunciation. The fundamental theme was that presented was that physicians have to be in charge of their own practice of medicine. These laws protect consumers from undue influence on physicians. It also makes physicians accountable to the medical board, which accomplishes further consumer protections. The committee recommended that the PowerPoint presentation that was presented on the corporate practice of medicine be posted on the medical board's website, and in fact, that a link to this presentation be sent to those applying for fictitious name permits. In addition, Dr. Kraus suggested a new news article be written on the topic for our spring newsletter. Ms. Cassandra Hawkinson presented an update on the Public Affairs Office strategic plan, which included extensive outreach and launching of the medical board's Twitter account. The 3 PSAs regarding prescription drug misuse and abuse were also discussed, as well as the desire to get them broadcasted on commercial media. In addition, it was brought to the committee's attention that CME's seminar course was held by the board on September 19th in Los Angeles on safe prescribing. This was made possible by a grant from the Federation of State Medical Boards. There was one public comment on the phone congratulating the board on its Twitter account and suggesting that we tweet meeting information earlier so that they would be more prepared to participate. Other suggestions were also made that will be taken into consideration. And further agenda items, we will be discussing physician health program and ask staff to examine those programs in other states and present what exists elsewhere. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you for that report. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board? Seeing none, are there any comments from members of the public on this report? Are there any comments on the phone?
No, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to Agenda Item 8, update and consideration on recommendations from the Enforcement Committee. Dr. Lewis.
Okay, many of you were here for the Enforcement Committee meeting, and we had a long and very productive meeting, so please bear with me as I give my report. The committee was joined by Mr. Gomez, Ms. Sweet from the DCA's Health Quality Investigation Unit, who provided an update on the investigative process at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Ms. Castro from the Office of the Attorney General also spoke at this time to update the committee on the status of the Vertical Enforcement Manual and the operational issues at the Attorney General's office. Next, I provided to the committee with an update of following our December 12, 2014 Marijuana Task Force meeting with board staff in Sacramento to discuss the board's marijuana statement. At this meeting, we reviewed the board's current laws, the current marijuana statement, and a precedential decision the board had adopted regarding this topic. In addition, we reviewed new legislation that had been introduced on December 1st, 2014 on this issue. We fully reviewed the laws pertaining to an appropriate examination and also the telehealth laws. Based on our review, the law authorizes the initial examination to be performed by a telehealth. However, the standard of care must be followed, as do the requirements in the Business and Professions Code, Section 2290.5, which is our telehealth law. The committee held a discussion regarding this matter and sought a motion to amend the marijuana statement on the important points to consider when recommending marijuana for medical purposes to add to the statement. Telehealth, in compliance with Business and Professions Code 2290.5, is a tool in the practice of medicine and does not change the standard of care. Additionally, we determined it was necessary to amend the Business Professions Code, Section 2242, to state a recommendation for marijuana must have an appropriate prior examination. Currently, this section of law states in part, and I quote, prescribing, dispensing, or furnishing dangerous drugs as defined in Section 4022 without an appropriate prior examination and a medical indication constitutes unprofessional conduct, end quote. In the precedential decision we reviewed, we found that when this case went to the Superior Court, it stated that a recommendation is not a prescription, and therefore they did not find a violation of the BP Code 2242. During our review of the new legislation, we found that this amendment is currently in Assembly Bill 26. Task Force recommended watching both Assembly Bill 26 and the spot bill Assembly Bill 34. AB 26 changes the law to require an in-person examination for any recommendation for marijuana. Tomorrow we will be taking a position on this legislation. If the legislation were to pass, staff would need to amend the board's marijuana statement to comply with the new statutory requirements. The committee sought a motion to amend Section 2242 of the BP Code to require an appropriate examination prior to recommending marijuana, either via AB 26 or by board's future recommendations for legislation. The task force recommended waiting until the legislative year is completed before any changes are made. Then Ms. Kirschmeyer and Ms. Smoes then reported to the committee on the subject of a third party reviewing the disciplinary action demographic data. By way of background, in the October 2014 Enforcement Committee meeting and the quarterly board meetings, the members directed staff to research potential third-party organizations that could analyze the data presented related to disciplinary action demographics. It was suggested board staff contact appropriate organizations that have the ability to conduct such a third-party review of the board's data and to present their findings. The board contact the Office of Health Equity within the California Department of Public Health and the California Research Bureau. The staff found this type of review of data from another state agency related to healthcare professionals is not really in line with the mission of the Office of Health Equity. However, the California Research Bureau provides a nonpartisan research services. The CRB is a central services agency, and such they do not charge clients for their services. The board just has to request services from the CRB in writing and to initiate a data analysis project. So therefore, the board staff has contacted the CRB, and they are interested in performing a data analysis review of the board's disciplinary demographic data and then publishing a report on their findings. And actually, they would return the data back to the medical board for its review and dissemination. We heard from Brian Sala from the CRB. He provided us additional background on the CRB and the services they provide. The boards then put forth a motion that was approved to submit, develop a memorandum of understanding and a contract with the CRB to perform such a study. The board president and vice president will work with staff on the MOU, and Dr. Krause will look at the methodology. The future agenda item that was added to the next meeting will include a discussion on scheduled drugs as they relate to telehealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for that report, and thank you for the committee's work. I also want to give recognition to you and Dr. Bishop for taking on the marijuana task force work. I really do appreciate, as does your colleagues and staff, and also thank staff for assisting in that effort.
Thank
you. If it pleases the chair, we could take a motion to accept the marijuana task force recommendations as you've described. So moved.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any discussions or comments from members of the board? Okay, seeing none, are there any comments from the public? Any comments from those on the phone?
We have no.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Serrano Sul,
Aye.
Dr. Gonadev,
Aye.
Ms. Pines. Aye. Dr. Bishop,
Aye.
Dr. Kraus,
Aye.
Dr. Levine,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky,
Aye.
and Dr. Yip.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
I'd also like to make a motion that we approve the development of the MOU for the California Research Bureau to provide the study on the demographic disciplinary data.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Dr. Levine. Any comments or questions from members of the board on the motion? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from those members of the public? No comments on the motion. Any on the phone, from the phone?
No, sir.
Seeing none, please call the roll, Ms. Kirkmeyer.
Mr. Serrano Sul,
Aye.
Dr. Gonadev,
Aye.
Ms. Pines. Aye. Dr. Bishop,
Aye.
Dr. Kraus,
Aye.
Dr. Levine,
Aye.
Dr. Lewis,
Aye.
Ms. Wright, Ms. Yaroslavsky,
Aye.
and Dr. Yip.
Aye.
One moment. I think we're done. Okay.
I would like to
Dr.
have a addition to the Enforcement Committee report to note, if in order, that Dr. Kraus asked that the board discuss policy regarding telehealth and its application to marijuana recommendations and prescribing of scheduled narcotics.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments from members of the board? All right. Well, seeing none, we will move to agenda item 9, the Vertical Enforcement Program Report. Ms. Castro and Mr. Gomez. Ms. Sweet, hello. We're now at agenda item 9.
Okay, we're agenda item 9. Good afternoon, President Serrano Sul and members of the Medical Board of California. Again, my name is Michael Gomez. I'm Deputy Director for the Department of Consumer Affairs, Division of Investigation and Enforcement Programs. It is my pleasure this afternoon to provide the full board with a report on the progress the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Attorney General's Office have made regarding the creation of a new vertical enforcement manual and where we are in our work. Then I would like to provide the board with enforcement statistics and data, and Deputy Chief Laura Sweet will give that report. This draft of the vertical enforcement and prosecution protocol was written by a team of individuals of the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Attorney General's Office, your Executive Director, Laura Sweet, myself, and the executive staff of the department. And we are 95% to the completion of a joint manual, and we only have one outstanding issue that needs to be resolved. To date, the draft represents a collaborative effort between the Attorney General's Office and the Department of Consumer Affairs, and we have done a lot of work to get to this point. I believe we will continue to do so and to discuss this one outstanding issue, and that one issue will be resolved in one or two more meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 4th, and I want to thank Gloria Castro and her staff for the work they have provided, not just in helping us understand their job and our job, but the collaboration we have had in our discussions regarding the creation and the formulation of a protocol that I think is worthwhile. I want to briefly explain the most important differences between the protocol and the current third edition of the Vertical Enforcement and Prosecution Manual. At the onset, the Department of Consumer Affairs believes the previous versions of the manual have served their purpose. The Medical Board of California and the Attorney General's office implemented the vertical enforcement and prosecution model, and we took the knowledge and lessons gained from working under the prior versions and incorporated them into this new protocol. Our primary goal was to create a product that reduced delays in the enforcement process and increased accountability, thereby enhancing consumer protection in California. Our secondary goal was to create a product that eliminated the confusion caused by the significant redundancies in the third edition, created greater clarity by organizing the product chronologically, and would also make it more user-friendly, and most importantly, used a neutral tone to lay the foundation for a true teamwork between the two agencies that would be using the protocol. We believe this product allows a user to find all the information on one topic in one place, unlike the current manual. It also recognizes that both the investigators and the Deputy Attorney General are trained professionals with separate areas of expertise that need to be recognized and respected by each other. In addition to working with the Attorney General's office on the VE manual, the Department of Consumer Affairs has been communicating with Ms. Castro on a regular basis to address current process issues to ensure that enforcement cases continue progressing in the most efficient and effective manner in the absence of a joint manual. Also, and this is the exciting news for, I think, for our team concept, is that we are currently in discussion with the Attorney General's office in the creation of a cloud which would allow documents and evidence sharing in our joint casework to be conveniently available to the vertical enforcement team members. Laura Sweet, Deputy Chief Sweet, will be working with the Attorney General to assist in the cloud development. This is exciting technology, and Gloria, I want to thank you again for opening the door for us on that venue. It's going to be, I think, a very state-of-the-art sharing of information and files and evidence, and I appreciate that. With that, I can take any questions, and either I or myself or Deputy Chief Sweet can answer, and we do have a data and statistics presentation as you may wish.
Are there questions or comments from the board? Dr. Lewis, I'll look to my left. And
So I'm going to ask you the questions I was going to ask you before, so, but I waited till to the full board meeting.
Sure.
I see that you're having issues with vacancies. I mean, that's a big thing. I see 17 vacancies, which really does impact, I would think, impact your ability to get this data and perform your job. So can you address how you're trying to work with the hiring authorities to reduce that number? What's the roadblock?
Well, I think there are two things. First thing is the normal course of cycle of the end of the year and in July when the peace officer retirements occur. So we had a lot of retirements, not only in Chief Threadgill, Terry Bennett, our Northern Area Commander, our Southern Area Commander, John Harai, a field office supervisor. It's calculated that they will probably most people will leave at the end of the year. So we had an exodus of 4 to 5 supervisors, and then, of course, we now have to have backfill to fill those positions, which creates the domino effect. So we try to keep in front of that by our recruitment efforts, by going out to the academies, going out to other state agencies to determine, if they're interested in the positions. The one, I guess, hill we have to climb is that we don't have, we can't compete with local governments on salaries. Okay, we can't do that. The other thing is that, collective bargaining has put us in a situation where there are other agencies that pay more than we do. So they do exit our agency to go to other agencies as well, because as you know, with medical board, the commitment and passion that one has to have to do the work for the medical board is not about money. It's about commitment to protecting the patients, and it's complex work. I've seen your cases. I never realized they were that complex until I was involved in this transition. So the recruitment issue is a big one for us, but it's also a retention issue. I think there's two things going on here, but we, by word of mouth, by going to the academies, we advertise a lot of our vacancies on the Post webpage, the Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training webpage, for employment opportunities with us. Yes, sir.
But just one thing, you're saying through collective bargaining, you cannot attract people because your salaries aren't competitive, is that right?
Well, yeah, I think it's across the
Okay.
board, though. I think it's
Okay,
across the board.
across the board, okay. And if you had to list some roadblock, I mean, if you had to just tell me what's your main roadblock to get this thing going, what would it be? Just briefly. Cut and dry.
Ray, you want to address that one?
Well,
I just got to get my hands around this.
I
What's stopping
truly,
this?
Dr. Lewis, I truly believe it relates to salary. There are numerous agencies that pay 15% more, and we've talked about this a lot throughout the years. And the work is incredibly difficult. We've been at this point before where we've had this many vacancies. I was looking through the past couple of years, and we had 15 vacancies at one point, and a different agency was laying off numerous individuals. We took them in, we did background investigations, and every single one of them left to go back to their higher paying job. So I think, when economic times are difficult, I really do think that is the number one issue.
Okay, thanks.
So we've heard before that the issue of salaries and benefits has been a barrier to hiring. That was supposed to be solved with the transferring of the investigators, Department of Consumer Affairs. And now we're hearing again that that's not good enough, that there's still a problem. My concern is that every year people retire in July or December, whenever they retire, that the job, whatever it entails, when you start a new job, you don't get to start off at the top level of the salary, you get to start off at the bottom level of the salary. That I'm not sure, my concern is not from the perspective of what you're hiring or not hiring, is the work product. That without the staff to do the job, the deadlines and the self-imposed structure we have as far as what cases should take to finish are going to be held up. So that we're hearing again that salaries are the problem for retention. We're hearing that people are leaving and you don't have enough employees. I can't believe that there isn't the ability of either to take some of the expectations of the employees' education or background, or maybe there's 2 steps to a job instead of 1. I don't know. But I would like to know that when are we going to hear that you've got a full staff, that the numbers of the ability to close a case are going down, that the cost of doing business is costing us less. We're still spending the same amount of money. If I would hear that it's costing us less because we have less employees, or, I'm not hearing any benefits here.
Ms. Yaroslavsky, in 22 years that I've been with the Medical Board of California, there's been 1 year where we were fully staffed. So this has been a problem for so long.
But I understand that, but Ms. Sweet, understand what my angst is that we were promised that the reason that this was going to change, that the medical board was going to lose their investigators to go to the Department of Consumer Affairs, was salary and retention. Salary and retention, I don't care about the last 22 years, I'm talking about now. So I want to hear from Mr. Gomez.
Well, let me, if I can comment, Mr. Gomez, and that's a good point, Ms. Yaroslavsky, thank you for bringing it up. And without getting into what's happened in the past,
Yeah, exactly.
what's the legislature and the governor saw fit to make this transfer happen. We've talked about it a lot.
I understand that.
And so it's our job to execute, in which we've done very well. And we've been getting the reports in a timely fashion and manner. And I know that the Department of Consumer Affairs is operating under the same budgetary constraints that all state agencies are. And it's a challenge, I think, for every consumer bureau.
Mm-hmm.
They like to see more for their staff, but those are the inherent challenges in government. So I think we can leave it there, if that's all right.
Okay.
And I know that there's comments to my right. Deb, did you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Gomez and Ms. Castro, thank you for giving us presentation together, and you're 95% there. What I want to know is, I see the same issues, and we know it's an ongoing issue about the retention, when we, as the board members and the public, can expect the shrinking of the timeline, the efficiency, all the issues where the biggest complaint is that it takes too long to get from the date of complaint to the final disciplinary order, or let it go. So I'm just trying to see at 30,000-foot level, what are your, when do you think we can see the results of this transferring our investigators to DCA, and you and AG's office working closely together? So we need to see the results. I just want to know what's your predictions on that?
Well, it's similar to, I guess, forecasting the weather. If all the situations are in line, I guess we can give you that forecast. But what the Attorney General's office, Gloria and myself, are trying to do is work closely together, making sure that we are on the same page with many of the processes in terms of how we transmit our cases, how we develop the investigative product for purposes of that. And so, as you heard today, we also have other challenges as well that are personnel related in recruitment and hiring. So you put all of those together. Some of those things are in our control, some are not. The system itself, judicial system itself, is, the trier of fact has challenges as well as the finder of fact. But we project that we will always try to make improvements. I can't give you a date when that's going to happen, but the optimistic and hope is that we will get there by trying and putting our nose to the grinder, looking at where the gaps are, and making sure that we have the human resources, the financial resources, the training, and the partnership with the Attorney General's Office for the protection of the consumers of California. And that's our pursuit.
Thank you. Dr. Levine?
I hope this is a fair question.
If I may tack onto that answer for the benefit of the board, one thing that I think is very important to remember is that we don't own this whole time scope from nose to tail. As Mr. Gomez has aptly pointed out, there are other actors, such as the physicians, who have full and complete due process in these proceedings and cannot be steamrolled. If the physician has a change in plans and cannot attend a subject interview, yes, we will give him an opportunity to reschedule that. There are other issues that come up with the experts that review our cases. Sometimes their lives, also their personal lives, get in the way of the expert review, and we have to accommodate those types of things. So I just want to remind the board that there are time periods that neither Mr. Gomez nor I have any control over. But like Mr. Gomez says, we are endeavoring to thin slice as best as we can, and there's only so much slicing until there's nothing left. But we're working on all those little gaps and things that we can identify to reduce that timeline. And I think that the cloud concept is actually a very easy low-lying fruit where we could hopefully catch up to the technology, have paperless issues that make co-location in a kind of like a virtual co-location. And it helps with the paper management, it helps to get the U.S. mail out of mailing things back and forth, and then hopefully it allows the legal advice and investigative forces to kind of unite and be more synergistic on the actual work, not this drama about, oh, where is it? Can I see it? Well, I can't find it. Did you send it? And things like that. So
Thank you, Ms. Castro. Dr. Levine?
Thank you. Sorry.
You had a question?
Yeah, I was thrilled to hear that you resolved almost all of the issues in terms of a joint manual. Is it fair to ask what's the remaining? You said there was one remaining area that still needed to be worked out.
Yeah, the one remaining area is the that we haven't really sat down and talked about it yet, is the participation of the Deputy Attorney Generals in the investigatory interviews. That's the one remaining.
Thanks.
Thank you. There's two components to this agenda item. Ms. Castro, you're the, is there any, are you done with this part, or?
Did the board want to see the data presentation that we made before the Enforcement Committee, the statistical data?
Is it briefly, if you don't mind? Is that possible?
Sure.
Let's try it.
Yes,
Okay, as I
as short
tried
as
to-
possible.
Oh, sure. This just, this
Thank you.
just demonstrates, oh, this is not the right, Armando, this is the 27th I can see the 29th. But I'll get started. This first slide depicts when a case is first assigned to an investigator till the time that it is disposed. And we went back about 5 years. The first bars have to do with cases that were extracted from CAS, because I did give a caveat about the data being unverified and not 100% checked. So as you can see here, back in fiscal year 10-11, our average was 312 days. We got down to a low of 245 days last fiscal year. And right now we stand at about 258 days, which is not too bad. And this information does come from Breeze, which does not calculate a couple little teeny things, but will be fixed next April. This April, I'm sorry, this next, yes, sorry.
Breeze is going to be fixed by April?
Yes, yes, sorry. Okay, 550 days old. We've come down in cases over 550, so that's positive. Cases over 1 year old, we've gone up just a little bit, but not too bad. And this just shows productivity, cases assigned, closed, et cetera, comparing the 2 6-month periods between last fiscal year and to date. And then these break down the individual offices' progress, comparing January 2014 to now. So there's a lot of up and down within these different charts due to varying factors that each district office is dealing with. And that's it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Castro?
So just briefly, yes, we continue to work on drafting a joint manual, which I hope can be finalized and approved by our office, the Attorney General, hopefully by July. I think that's a realistic goal, and we will work very diligently on it to get it done. But overall, I want to assure you that even in the absence of the joint manual, the work continues. We continue to address all the different issues with legal case management, not only of your investigations, but also when we close investigations and transmit them to our office. As you all know, the authority still lies with the Attorney General to decide what cases to accept for prosecution. Ms. Kirchmeier also has the ability thereafter to decide what to file. And Ms. Kirchmeier definitely has a different role to play. As the executive, she does have an audit accountability role to review closed cases, cases that we close as a pre-accusation PLR, insufficient evidence, no violation. I am working very hard to help Ms. Kirchmeier at an earlier juncture in the outcomes of your investigations. And so, because I believe it's an important accountability function that also takes into account the legal advice that's so important in the investigations. As you are aware, at each of these board meetings, our involvement and stewardship of your cases doesn't end at the investigation phase. It continues into the administrative phase. Writs and appeals were needed. And so on the point that was raised by Dr. Ganadev, even there in the administrative phase, we have issues that we do not control. We do not control how often OAH may grant a continuance. People have a right to file a writ. And so those cases can be extended. I mean, even in your own medical board meetings today, when you heard from my staff and different STIPs and non-adoptions, I mean, that adds to the time. But I think it's time well spent because we want to get it right. Because this is the doctor's license on the line, and we want to get it right also on behalf of the public and their safety. So even if something takes a little longer, if it's quality driven, I think it's time well spent. And so with that being said, we want to be more collaborative with Ms. Kirchmeier and offer her any assistance that she requests to solve the many problems and find uniformity across the board in how the Attorney General accepts cases for prosecutions, our filing decisions, and settlement recommendations. And that is one thing that I have taken very seriously, and I really enjoy working with Ms. Kirchmeier, as you all hear at every meeting. And so like Mr. Gomez said, operationally in the past 6 months, we've worked collaboratively to try and get to the point where we have that same synergistic effect that HQE enjoyed when the medical board still had its investigators in the last couple of years. And I just ask for your patience as we continue to, this is a honeymoon period, yes? Okay. And so we will get it right and we will move on. With respect to the cloud, I won't belabor that, but I'm excited about having that system because it's always bedeviled our staff to not have access to the evidence when we really need to look at it. On the topic of subject interviews, I think having documentation to review prior to a scheduled subject interview helps my staff decide whether to send questions, whether to appear personally, whether to appear by phone, or not appear at all. And so I think that a cloud concept, which is hosted by the Department of Justice, it's not coming at any cost to you. It is a pilot, and we will see how that works. Now, with respect to the cloud, we've also found an application into it, with hopefully with the Complaint Investigation Office and in the management of your probation cases, which did not go to DCA. They stayed at the headquarters of the medical board, and those are also important functions that I will continue to talk to Ms. Kirchmeier about how we should be providing legal advice in those matters and do it in as efficient way as possible. And Ms. Kirchmeier jumped on the cloud much earlier than DCA, so I commend her for that. And I think it'll be worthwhile also for the board to acknowledge that Ms. Kirchmeier has a massive document retention problem. So whatever we can do to make it go paperless through the cloud will help everyone. In the meantime, like Mr. Gomez says, I think with staff coming and going, training is going to be much more important because continuity in how your policies are instituted in your cases will be very important. Obviously, with the loss of very talented staff, we were very sad to see such senior staff go. It provides new opportunities for new supervisors to move up in the ranks, but it also provides a lot more work for Ms. Sweet and Mr. Gomez to make sure that there's a continuation in that. So I think that I wish them well in finding really great candidates for that because we're looking forward to working with them. Now, with respect to statistics, the Attorney General is continuing to work with the medical board in obtaining data from Breeze that was previously accessible in the CAS system. As you may be reminded, we used to be able to take a peek into CAS to get significant milestones from investigators. That is still something that I want to work on with Mr. Gomez. In the meantime, our lead prosecutors do inform HQIU about the dates and reasons for investigation closures, and we communicate it back to him and his staff. But we actually, the Attorney General, does not have any charge over what gets put into Breeze. And so I will be working with Ms. Laura Sweet because I think right now is a good time to look at what's been done the last 6 months and see if we can reconcile whatever data needs to be reconciled. So then that way when statistics are presented, they're presented with much more confidence than we've had because of the issues with Breeze. And so in the absence of direct milestones kept by investigators that we can see, we are having to expend additional effort to try and obtain up-to-date information. And so we continue to meet monthly with NBC's statistical staff, Mr. Westwinkle in particular, on our unpled case lists, needs action reports, identifying cases that are coming up for a default possibly because the doctor has not requested a hearing. And we continue to provide Ms. Kirchmeier CMS reports, case management system reports that come out of PROLA. Those reports are derived from the entry of milestones by Deputy Attorney General staff. In the meantime, HQE has been successful in attracting a couple more positions that might take away some of the entry of the data by lawyers and delegate it to someone that is an office tech or an AGPA or a much lower billing position. And so to conclude, as your legal counsel in all your judicial and administrative proceedings concerning your disciplinary matters, and also the attorneys in charge of directing your investigations, we take exceedingly seriously your responsibilities as a board to ensure the quality and safety of medical care. Our 56 attorneys statewide handle significant large caseloads for you and its other clients, and you are familiar with their legal work during these meetings as well as in the results we deliver that you publicize in your newsletters every month. And so we're very excited even about the Gary Page proposed precedential decision. I think that particular decision shows the work of a couple of SDAGs as well as myself and a very talented DAG. And so all of our staff obviously considers it a privilege to be active participants in your important mission. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But that concludes my report.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Castro. Are there, to my right, Dr. Bishop and then Dr.
Yeah, I've listened to you folks now for quite some time, and I have no doubt you folks are doing everything you possibly can. And if that's the case, it concerns me that perhaps if we're not achieving what we want, it's because we're not helping enough, or there are some blocks that you need removed. And it's very easy to find blame and to flog people in public. But I keep hearing the same thing about salaries, about legal issues. And you know, the only people that can affect that is our legislature. We don't make the rules, they do. And I think, can we now, again, this is a recurring theme with me if you've heard over the years, can we look to them for some guidance? How can they help us? How can they help our citizens? How can they help all of us to achieve what we want to achieve? So that being said, I would like the board to really look into this and search our souls and who can we go to help these three people who I believe are doing everything they can. Second is, in all this information that we receive, nothing that I've ever heard indicates to me what is our ideal endpoint. Is it 100 days? Is it 20 days? And I don't have a metric, and maybe no one has a metric to know what that is. And again, if we're trying to reach the impossible, we'll never be satisfied. So I want to know what really is possible, and where can we go to get that information? What would be, can you look at an equivalent non-medical criminal case to see what is the average time to close that? What are our metrics? I'm not sure I've ever heard what we should be trying to achieve. I mean, maybe 251 is the best anyone can do, and we're at 255 and we're beating the heck out of everybody. So I think that'd be nice to know if somebody somewhere, other states, other medical boards, equivalent medical boards, you know, that do more than 20 disciplinary cases a year, like some of the states apparently do. But I think those are a couple of things that I've missed in this whole conversation. And I just think we keep going around and around the same thing, and I actually feel a little bit disappointed in the way you folks are being treated.
Well, we're going to, Dr. Bishop, going to take those central points and incorporate them into our Ledge Day. When we talk to legislators, when we talk to governor's staff, DCA staff, and that'll be at the forefront of our message, to support for our essential stakeholders. Deb, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I heard a few things that you are looking at streamlining the process. I'm really thrilled, but don't forget that, I mean, in the end, the time it takes, it affects all areas. Sometimes it's public protection, sometimes it's a physician under a cloud for too long, and all the time media beating up on the medical board that we take too long. So at least now they can beat up on the DCA because all the investigators are at DCA, not at the medical board. But this is what happens, so that's why it is our interest. Mr. Saraswal, I totally agree. I think we do need to get to the legislature and see how. That includes multiple things that Ms. Castro mentioned, that is somebody keeps postponing. I mean, so there have to be time limits. So these are the issues if we deal with it, I think it's not only just the public protection. I hear from physicians they're under cloud for 4 years, and then they're finally let go. That's an issue too, because their practice is all gone, and there are media complaining that some doctor who hurt people will practice for 5 years. So that's why it is important to really shorten. And we'll help whatever it takes from our side.
Just a brief comment, Mr. President.
Yes.
Is that the department does have performance measures for all the boards and all the bureaus and the Department of Consumer Affairs on performance measures and metrics and targets for each one of the intake, complaint, volume of licensees and licensure, the investigative cycle times, adjudication cycle times. We are in a process, probably the middle of this year, to begin looking at all the allied health board, or all the healing arts boards, in particular the medical board, and looking at what those targets are they achievable, are they not, and why.
Are there any additional comments from members of the board? This is on agenda item 9, the vertical enforcement program. Are there any comments from the public? Those present, seeing none, I'll assume do we have any comments from the phone?
No, ma'am.
All right. We'll now move on to agenda item 10, update from the Attorney General's office. Ms. Castro.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to report on 2 cases for the sake of brevity. I think that you've gotten a lot of information from me today, and so I'd rather leave that open for questions. The Lewis case, this is the Supreme Court case that is questioning the ability of the medical board to access cures to protect the public from diversion and dangerous drugs. Dr. Lewis has requested another continuance. We expect that he will file something by mid-February, and hopefully we will have a brief on file by mid-March. If not, then it'll be, I think they can get up to 4 continuances on that. So he's on his second one. So, I mean, that's one of the points we were trying to say earlier. And that's it. I just wanted to report on the Lewis case and conclude that.
Thank you for that report, Ms. Castro. Are there any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public? Are those present? Seeing none, are there any comments from the phone? Okay, thank you, Ms. Castro, for that report. We'll now move on to agenda item 7, update on the Physician's Assistant Board. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you very much.
Oh, 11. We are at agenda item 11. Dr. Bishop?
It's still me.
It's still you.
I've just changed numbers.
Yes, you got moved up. Thank you,
Thank you very much. The last board meeting had nomination and election of a Physician Assistant Board officers. Robert Sachs was elected president for 2015, so he continues a very long and distinguished tenure. Mr. Jed Grant was elected vice president for 2015. Both are licensed PAs with excellent credentials. The medical board is responsible for all regulations dealing with the scope of practice for PAs. With this in mind, the medical board submitted a regulatory package to amend the physician assistant supervision requirements in surgery to permit physician assistants to assist in surgery without the personal presence of a supervising physician, if the supervising physician is immediately available to the physician assistant. The action also defines immediately available as physically accessible and able to return to the patient without any delay upon request of the physician assistant to address any situation requiring the supervising physician's services. The regulatory package was approved by the Office of Administrative Law on December 17, 2014. It will become effective on April 1, 2015. On behalf of the Physician Assistant Board, I would like to thank the medical board staff for shepherding this change through the process. The board discussed requirements for board members to report knowledge of possible violations of physician assistant laws and regulation by licensees. Legal counsel informed the board that there is nothing in the physician assistant laws and regulations requiring board members to report violations of physician assistant laws and regulations. It was suggested that a policy might be considered to give members some guidance as to their responsibility to report such violations. At the November 2014 board meeting, members reviewed and adopted the board member reporting knowledge of violations of physician assistant laws and regulations. If you'd like to see a copy of this policy, I can get it for you. On a final note, on behalf of the Physician Assistant Board and staff, I would like to thank the Medical Board of California for your continued support. Your Executive Director, Kimberly Kirchmeyer, and your staff are always available to assist us. As you may be aware, the Medical Board provides information systems, complaint processing, and cashiering services to the Physician Assistant Board. Your staff provides excellent customer service, is always professional, and goes above and beyond in providing us with a quality product. Thank you very much. The next scheduled Physician Assistant Board meeting is February 9th, 2015. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Are there any comments or questions from members of the board on the doctor's report? To my left, seeing none. To my right, none. Thank you. Are there any comments from members of the public? Any comments from the phone? All right, no comments. We'll now move to agenda item 12, update on the Health Professions Education Foundation. Ms. Yaroslavsky. And Dr. Yep.
Thank you. I'm going to do it, okay? Please. No, thank you. Thank you. On the Stephen Thompson Physician Corps Loan Repayment Program. The Stephen Thompson program, as I think everyone around the table hopefully knows and remembers, was created in 2003 to increase the accessibility to healthcare and promote longevity of primary care physicians in medically underserved areas in California. Physicians and surgeons can receive up to $105,000 in exchange for providing direct patient care in a medically underserved area for a minimum of 3 years. Based on the number of applicants, the amount of funds available each year, the process of selecting recipients continues to be very competitive. To date, the Stephen Thompson Loan Repayment Program has awarded more than $31 million to 311 individuals. What we've done this year, 2014, the amount has been requested is $10 million. We've not made the awards yet, so I can't tell you how many will be awarded, but I can tell you in 2013, of 157 applicants, 115 were actually awarded money. That they requested 15 million plus, and we were able to award 11 million plus, thanks to the California Endowment, which has given us some money, as well as the federal government as well. So we've been doing very well. The HPF continues to be moving forward. I was just notified, as was Dr. Yip, that our executive director is leaving in the next 2 weeks. And other than that, I don't know any other information, but next board meeting is February, is after that date. So we're doing okay. Have anything to add? No? Okay, so that's...
Thank you, Ms. Yaroslavsky and Dr. Yip, for your continued service and that report. Is there any comment from members of the board? Yes.
Mr. Yaroslavsky, the SLRP, the other loan repayment program in Ashpard, they gave us some data at the work group. It was somewhat surprising that the retention rate in the underserved areas was not very high. So I'm just wondering that from our STLRP, Steve Thompson Loan Repayment Program, do we have any statistics to see if how many people are staying at least for 5 years? Because the program is only for 3 years. So can we get those numbers to see what the retention rate is?
I think that the idea of keeping statistics has been new to this department, that they are being encouraged to do it. They're also being encouraged to develop an alumni association, which they've done. They've started to do some information. Whether they were being retained or not, I had no idea they weren't being retained. These are spread out statewide, so I know that when I have visited locations, I have heard stories from staff that in fact they have stayed and they have changed their desire to go back and do other kinds of things so it's just hearsay. They've not done any statistics like this yet. I would hope that they would be looking forward to doing that. I can give you statistics as far as male-female applicants. I can give you who's applied in what counties across the state, but I don't have that data. I apologize. I could even give you ethnicities if you needed that.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any additional comment? All right, seeing none, is there any comment from members of the public? No? Any comment from on the phone? Dr. Yip, did you want to add anything? No? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move, the next item is 25, which we are taking out of order. It is the Special Faculty Permit Review Committee recommendations. Dr. Yip?
Thank you. The Special Faculty Permit Committee, we met on we actually attended a conference on December 4, 2014, and the board package 25, item 25, page 1 to 4, and reviewed 2 applications, one from UC San Francisco and one from University of Southern California. The first applicant is Dr. Hideo Okada from UC San Francisco. Dr. Okada's area of expertise is neurosurgery, specialized in the area of brain cancer immunotherapy. His medical school and postgraduate training is on page 2 to 4 on the item 25. Mainly he trained in Nagoya University in Japan. And in addition, he also had a PhD from the Nagoya University School of Medicine in Japan. Dr. Okada was previously a tenured professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, where he implemented and conducted a number of novel immunotherapy trials in brain tumor patients. Dr. Okada developed several immunotherapies and has been the sponsor of 4 investigational new drugs. Dr. Okada conducted one of the first immune gene therapy trials in patients with malignant glioma. His lab also was the first to identify and fully characterize cytotoxic T lymphocytes for the gliomas. Dr. Okada was one of the co-leaders of the International Working Group Immunotherapy Response Assessment in Neuro-Oncology. Dr. Okada has published 67 publications, 137 invited published papers, and has been invited to lecture at several seminars. Dr. Okada's national and international reputation as a leader in the field is reinforced by his outstanding clinical investigations. At UC San Francisco, Dr. Okada's response will include holding a full-time faculty appointment as a professor in the Department of Neurological Surgery. In addition to research, Dr. Okada will also provide clinical care and teach at the medical school. The committee recommends that the board approve Dr. Okada for a special faculty permanent appointment. I'd like to make the following motion that the board will approve Dr. Hideo Okada for Business and Professional Code Section 2168.1A special faculty permit appointment at UC San Francisco.
I move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, is there any comments from the public? No, none present. Any comments from the phone? No? Ms. Kirkmeyer, please call the roll.
Dr. Gonadev?
Aye.
Ms. Pines?
Aye.
Dr. Bishop?
Aye.
Dr. Kraus?
Yes.
Dr. Levine?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Aye.
Ms. Yaroslavsky?
Aye.
Dr. Yip?
Aye.
Mr. Serrano Sul?
Aye. Motion carries.
The next applicant is from University of Southern California, USC, is Dr. Renee Sotelo. Dr. Sotelo is an expert in minimal invasive robotic surgery in South America, as a pioneer in single port laparoscopic and robotic surgery. He mainly medical training, medical school, and postgrad training in Venezuela, which is mentioned in page 3 of the item 25. Dr. Sotelo is currently professor and chairman of the Department of Urology and director of minimally invasive surgery at Clínica Foresta in Venezuela. Dr. Sotelo is an internationally known pioneer who led the development of laparoscopic and robotic techniques for urinary fistula surgery, which include rectal prostatic, rectal vesical, and vesical vaginal fistulas. Dr. Sotelo has trained more than 67 fellows in 14 countries at his center in Caracas, Venezuela. Dr. Sotelo has been invited to perform live surgical demonstration as a guest surgeon in 35 universities in 17 countries. He has been invited to lecture by major scientific societies in over 24 countries. Dr. Sotelo has 60 peer-reviewed research articles, 3 textbooks, and over 27 chapters. At USC, Dr. Sotelo will hold a full-time faculty appointment as professor of clinical urology at USC, if approved for a special faculty permit appointment by the board. He will be caring for patients, teaching medical school students, residents, fellows, and be involved with research at USC. The committee recommends that the board approve Dr. Sotelo for a special faculty permit appointment. So I make the following motion: the board approve Dr. Renee Sotelo for Business and Professional Code Section 2168.1A special faculty permit appointment at USC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Seeing none, are there comments from the public? Those present? Seeing none, any comments from the phone?
No, sir.
Ms. Kirkmeyer, please call the roll.
Dr. Gonadev?
Aye.
Ms. Pines?
Aye.
Dr. Bishop?
Aye.
Dr. Kraus?
Yes.
Dr. Levine?
Yes.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Yaroslavsky?
Aye.
Dr. Yip?
Aye.
And Ms. Serrano Sul?
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job.
Does that conclude your report?
They like walk on water, these doctors. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the committee's work. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
We're now moving to agenda item 13, closed session. The board will now be moving into closed session pursuant to section 11126 subsection E1 of the Government Code.